13%. That is the share of a monthly salary that, in one European country, can vanish with a single tank of gasoline. Who do you think is robbing you every time you fill up your car? If your answer is the oil companies, you are deeply mistaken. Today, we are not just showing you the 10 European countries where gasoline costs the most. We are revealing who is truly behind these insane prices. Spoiler: the culprit is rarely the oil itself, but rather a web of taxes, historical excise duties, and deliberate political choices that turn every refuel into a financial drain. Share in the comments what the situation is like in your country and your personal experience. Welcome to Amazing Europe. Number 10. Portugal. Imagine paying €2.17 per litre of gasoline. It is not a nightmare. It was the peak that the Portuguese experienced in 2022. Today, the situation is slightly better, but do not be fooled. Normality here comes at an extremely high price. The real problem in Portugal is not the cost of crude oil, but what happens afterward. More than half of the final price is a bitter cocktail of taxes. There is the excise duty on petroleum products. There is a carbon tax for environmental purposes. And then comes the masterpiece: the 23% VAT, calculated not only on the cost of the fuel, but also on all the other taxes. That's right, it is a tax on top of a tax, a trick that ends up straight in the citizens' pockets. For a Portuguese worker earning an average salary of around €1,200, a single tank can swallow nearly 10% of their monthly income. With the cost of one full tank, you could buy 2 months of public transport in Lisbon. And the government? It tried to patch things up with a temporary discount on excise duties. But here comes the twist. The European Union knocked on the door, demanding that this aid be removed because it was a fossil fuel subsidy. So, how much does this fragile normality cost today? In Portugal, gasoline now costs €1.71 per litre. That is why every weekend the roads leading to Spain are packed. It is an exodus for survival, with families filling up their cars while saving up to €15, and while they're at it, they stock up on other goods. This is not tourism. It is the only escape from a perfectly legal robbery at the pump. Number 9. Italy. In Italy, every tank of gasoline is not just a purchase, it is a history lesson. Inside every litre you pay for, there is still the funding for the Ethiopian War of 1935, the reconstruction after the Florence flood of 1966, and the earthquakes that shook the country decades ago. It is a historical burden, an accumulation of excise duties that have never been removed. And the masterstroke? The state applies a 22% VAT not only to the cost of the fuel, but also to this pile of past taxes. A fiscal time machine that drains the present. For an Italian earning an average salary of €1,700, a full tank costing nearly €90 is not just an expense, it is a crossroads. With the same amount, one could buy a high-speed train ticket from Milan to Rome. The choice is between the freedom to move for a month or a 3-hour journey. And politics? For a brief and illusory period in 2022, the government cut excise duties, giving the country some breathing room. But the truce ended, the decision was revoked, and the grip of taxes came back stronger than before. Today, that grip translates into a price of €1.71 per litre. Thus, for those living near the northeastern border, the choice is obvious. A short trip to Slovenia or Austria can save up to €15 per tank. It is a weekly pilgrimage to escape from a museum where the ticket is not paid at the entrance, but directly at the gas pump. Number 8. Greece. €2.60 per litre. This is not the price of gold, but what you paid for gasoline on one of the Cyclades Islands in the summer of 2022. Welcome to Greece, where the cost of living in paradise is measured at the gas pump. Here, the robbery has 2 accomplices. The first is the state, with a 24% VAT, one of the highest in Europe, which, as usual, also applies to the already heavy special consumption tax. And to be fair, this is a common practice across Europe. The second accomplice is geography. Every drop of fuel bound for the islands must face an odyssey. It is loaded onto tanker trucks, which are then placed on slow ferries battling the sea. This exhausting journey has a cost, and those who live there are the ones who pay it. It is an economic trap. For a Greek worker earning an average salary of €1,500, a full tank of almost €90 means giving up quite a few things. With the same amount, you could buy a ferry ticket to escape that island. It is the ultimate paradox. The fuel needed to move costs as much as the trip itself. The government tried to ease the crisis with a temporary fuel pass, but it was merely a bandage on a deep wound. And today? Today, the average price across Greece is €1.75 per litre. It is the price to pay for dependence on a car in a place where alternatives are often non-existent, and the fuel must literally cross the sea to reach its destination. Number 7. Norway. 82%. In Norway, 82% of all new cars sold are fully electric. If plug-in hybrids are included, the share exceeds 90%. Gasoline and diesel are now marginal in sales. This is no coincidence, and it is not just about love for the environment. It is the result of a very deliberate plan. Here lies one of Europe's most absurd paradoxes. One of the world's largest oil exporters has deliberately decided to punish gasoline with brutal taxes in order to force its citizens to change. It is a calculated strategy. The enormous revenues finance their famous welfare system and the green transition. The formula is a cocktail of 3 taxes, one on road use, one specific and extremely high on CO2, and finally the 25% value-added tax applied to the total cost including the other 2 taxes. Of course, the price is very high, but the twist lies in the salary. With an average income approaching €4,000, a full tank of nearly €90 represents just over 2% of a monthly salary, a trifle compared to the 10% paid by a Portuguese worker. But prosperity is not for everyone. For those living in the vast and freezing rural areas of the north, where electric cars are a gamble and the car is the only lifeline, the price is not an incentive but a punishment. Today, the cost of this forced revolution is €1.78 per litre. And so, even the wealthy Norwegians have their own escape route. It is called Svenskehandel, a weekend exodus to Sweden to stock up on everything that costs less, starting with a full tank of gasoline. Number 6. Finland. €2.50 per litre. This is not a hypothesis. It is the price Finns saw with their own eyes in the summer of 2022, when dependence on Russian oil vanished overnight. Today, the price has dropped, but the underlying philosophy has not. Here, taxing gasoline is a precise art. In addition to a heavy CO2-based excise duty, Finland applies a unique tax, a levy to finance strategic emergency reserves. It is a survival tax, a cost to ensure that the country never stops, not even in the worst crises. And of course, the 24% VAT seals it all. But to understand the real impact of this cost, you must picture Finland, a land of vast distances, endless forests, and brutal winters. Here, the car is not a choice. It is the only tool that connects you to civilization, that takes you to work or to the hospital when everything is buried in snow. It is a tax on distance. An average salary of €3,000 helps, but it does not shorten the kilometres. For many, the cost of fuel is not an environmental incentive, it is a burden on necessity. The price to pay for that necessity today is €1.78 per litre. This pressure has created a national ritual, the weekend escape. An army of Finns boards ferries to Tallinn in Estonia, where they fill up on cheap gasoline and alcohol. It is a small act of evasion, a breath of relief before returning to face the cost of survival. Number 5. Albania. 13%. Imagine that 13% of your entire monthly salary disappears for a single tank of gasoline. This is not a hypothesis. It is the mathematical reality faced by an Albanian citizen. Here, the robbery at the pump becomes a humanitarian crisis. We are not in a wealthy Nordic country, but in a nation where the average salary is €680 and the price remains high because of a tangle of absurd taxes and a market controlled by a few. Electric cars are a fantasy. The car fleet consists of old imported diesel vehicles, not out of a desire to pollute, but to survive. Many desperate drivers modify these cars to run on LPG, a cheaper alternative that nevertheless requires an initial investment. When the salary is not enough to pay for the fuel needed to reach work, the underground economy grows, now accounting for as much as 28% of the GDP. Informal work is not a choice. It is the only oxygen tank available to pay for a full tank that costs as much as a week's worth of groceries. The price of this daily struggle today is €1.79 per litre. This is not a silent fight. In 2022, anger exploded, with thousands of people blocking the country shouting, "Stop stealing from us!" In response to these protests, the government established a transparency committee that sets daily retail price caps to limit distributors' profit margins. But the situation remains very serious. It is a system that taxes poverty and pushes people to the edge in a country forced to choose between moving and eating. Number 4. Switzerland. Here, the robbery at the pump looks more like a premium subscription. You pay an exorbitant amount, but in return, the taxes do not vanish into a black hole. They have a clear purpose, written into law, to fund the best roads and tunnels in the world. Here, fuel not only moves you, but also pays for the perfect asphalt you drive on. It is a clear social contract where even diesel is taxed more than gasoline by deliberate political choice. In this country, gasoline is still dominant, but electric vehicles have reached huge market shares, and the Tesla Model Y is consistently the best-selling car in the nation. But the real twist lies in why this system works: an average monthly salary of over €7,000. Suddenly, a €90 tank is no longer a drama but a routine expense, representing just over 1% of income. A trifle. This wealth allows the government to stay hands-off, letting the market take its course without the need for bonuses or discounts. The price of this luxury packed today is €1.81 per litre. But do not think the Swiss enjoy paying more. The proof? Every weekend, a disciplined exodus of cars with Swiss license plates crosses the border to fill up in Germany, France, or Austria. It is the demonstration that even those who can afford everything never give up a good deal. Number 3. The Netherlands. €2.50 per litre. That was the price nearly reached in the Netherlands in 2022. And it was no accident, but the result of a plan. Here, the robbery at the pump is a sophisticated carrot and stick strategy. The stick is one of the most brutal fuel taxes in Europe, designed for a single purpose: to make driving so economically painful that you are forced to seek alternatives. It is a weapon against congestion in one of the most densely populated countries on Earth. And the carrot? It is the best in the world. While the government punishes you at the pump, it rewards you if you choose differently. First of all, generous subsidies for electric cars. The Netherlands is one of Europe's leading markets for electric vehicles, with the Tesla Model Y at the top. But above all, there is a cycling infrastructure that is the marvel of the modern world, with true bicycle highways that are safe and fast. Of course, an average salary of nearly €4,000 softens the blow. Yet, in a country where the cost of living is very high, a full tank of almost €100 is still a noticeable expense. The price of this strategy today is €1.94 per litre. It is a price so effective in its purpose that it has created a national ritual. Tanktoerisme. Every weekend, a stream of Dutch cars pours into Germany and Belgium, where a full tank can cost up to €20 less. It is proof that no matter how good the carrot may be, if the stick hits too hard, people will always find a way out. Number 2. Denmark. 150%. That is the top bracket of the purchase tax the Danish government applies to new cars. Here, the robbery does not begin at the pump. It begins much earlier, at the dealership. It is a progressive tax, a trap designed to be more ruthless the more expensive the car is. On a small economy car, the tax is already heavy. On a mid-size sedan, it becomes brutal. On a luxury car, it is almost confiscatory. In practice, the tiered system means this. For a mid-range car, the price set by the manufacturer is almost doubled by taxes. The final result is simple and absurd. It is as if you bought one car for yourself and another almost identical one for the state. The reason? It is twofold. First, to discourage car ownership and free cities from traffic and pollution. Second, the enormous revenue generated by this tax helps fuel Denmark's famous welfare state. The price of fuel is just the final blow, a punch delivered by a specific CO2 tax and a 25% VAT, one of the highest in the world, which seals the deal. Of course, an average salary of €3,600 helps you live well, but the government has made private mobility so disproportionately expensive to finance its welfare system and to force an ecological transition. It has turned the bicycle from a choice into the only economically rational decision. With the cost of a full tank, nearly €100, you can pay for an entire month's public transport pass in Copenhagen. It is a war of attrition against car culture. Today, the price of gasoline is €1.95 and 1/10 per litre. Before revealing number 1, if you found this video informative, we kindly ask you to support our project with a like, by subscribing to the channel and by clicking on the bell so you won't miss our new videos. And we'd like to let you know that on our new channel, America vs Europe, we've made a video showing all the best-selling cars in every European country, every US state, and in Canada. Number 1. Iceland. Welcome to Iceland, the only country on our list from which you can't escape to fill up your tank. Here, there is no border to cross, only thousands of kilometers of the Atlantic Ocean. And it is right there that the perfect storm begins, crowning this country as the undisputed king of the robbery at the pump. First, taxes, of course. A brutal excise duty, one of the oldest carbon taxes in Europe, and a 24% VAT that seals the deal. Second, and most importantly, logistics. Every single drop of gasoline must be loaded onto a ship, cross the ocean, and reach this isolated outpost. It is a costly and risky journey, and the drivers are the ones who pay the price. Here, a car is not a luxury, it is the only means of survival. Outside the capital, there are no trains. There is only the car, often a 4x4 in rural areas, to face immense distances and unpredictable weather. The average salary is high, almost €5,000, but with the cost of a full tank, nearly €110, you could pay for a ticket to the Blue Lagoon or a dinner for two in Reykjavik. However, it's also true that electric cars have been dominating sales in recent years, even though diesel and gasoline vehicles are still widely used. And of course, the high salary helps a lot. The price of this geographic curse today is €2.11 and 6/10 per litre. It is not just a political choice, it is an economic prison created by geography. The living paradox of a country that runs on clean energy, yet remains a slave to oil, sold at the price of gold. And what about you and your country? We can't wait to read about your experience in the comments. We strongly recommend watching this video, where we reveal the ranking of European countries based on supermarket price increases over the last 10 years. You'll discover where inflation has hit the hardest. That's all for this video. See you next time.